Hello and welcome. This video is about the resources that you might want to use if you are studying the Bible in Koine Greek. This is just going to look through some of the books and things that are available in technology as well now for you to use in studying the Bible in one of its original languages. Now, when you're looking to work with the New Testament, this is the sort of stuff that you're going to need to analyze the text, to translate the words and so on. Nowadays, you can get this sort of stuff online or in apps very easily. Firstly, an interlinear Bible will give you the Koine Greek alongside the English, each word with its literal translation underneath, and quite often they have a separate translation of the full English where the words will be put into an order and into a sentence that makes sense at the side as well. I use the Tyndale one, which uses the NRSV translation. You can do this online though with websites like Step or Bible Hub. Logos is another good website to use as well, and you will find that a number of these and apps that you can get on your phone, if you Google Koine Greek parsing or something like that, you'll come up with a number of options. I use the SBL Greek New Testament and the Greek parsing app by Claypot Frog. They're pretty useful on my phone, but there's loads of other options on the web as well, and they will do the parsing, so they'll teach you things like the gender, the case, the mood, the voice, the number, and so on, which is much easier than having to learn hundreds and hundreds of possible forms of words, what we call the morphology, the shape that the words take. Then also what you want to think about are lectionaries and dictionaries. Now, a dictionary just simply gives you the meaning of the word. It's important to remember that often the words are listed in alphabetical order according to how they appear in their original stem form. So you need to know, when you look at a word, what is the original form of that word, what does it come from, in order to be able to look it up. And that can be difficult. But if you're just using an interlinear Bible and you click on that word for the dictionary definition, it will tell you where it's come from. One of the most common problems is that when a verb goes into the past tense, in the indicative mood, it gains an epsilon at the start. So you'll be looking at the next letter to find it in the dictionary, not at the epsilon, because it won't appear under epsilon. There's also lectionary. Why is lectionary different from a dictionary? Well, it doesn't just explain what the word means, it explains how it is translated in other literature. Some lectionaries will look at the New Testament, so it will tell you how that word has been translated in other parts of the New Testament, but others will look also at the Septuagint, other Koine Greek writings, and also literature from ancient Greek as well. Now, these sorts of lectionaries are very useful when you're doing sermons, if you want to do expository preaching, if you want to do exegesis, to get into word meanings and see what they meant to the people who were receiving them at the time, what those words would have meant to them, by looking at how those words are used in that contemporary context. So I usually use a lectionary and not a dictionary, because I can understand more about the usage of the word and not just the definition. Lastly, there is a concordance you can use, which will show you the occurrences of that word throughout the Bible, and an exhaustive concordance will show you all of the occurrences of that word in the Bible. Now, a number of these websites will show all of those things together. But you might also want to buy these things as books. I use these things as books, and it can be a good part of your practice to flick through those. But I must say that it is really simple and really easy and really helpful to be able to do it with an app, with software, or on a website. Very quick, very easy, and you don't need tons of knowledge to get there. So one of the examples you might use is Step. Go to stepbible.org and look up the Tyndale House Greek New Testament, THGNT, as you can see on the left hand side near the top there, and it will bring up the English alongside the Greek, and you can click on the words. It will show you where else they're used, it will show you the meaning, and it will give you the parsing, it will give you the phonetic pronunciation if you're not used to how to say those words yet, and things like that. Very helpful website to use, and it makes parsing and translation really easy. Bible Hub is another helpful one that I mentioned. You just want to go to biblehub.com. In the middle of the page you'll see Interlin. Click on that for your interlinear Bible, and you will get the Greek alongside the English with the phonetic pronunciation, the strong number, so you can click on that and get your concordance, dictionary definition and lectionary overview and analysis. And then underneath you see these letters, like under the word logos for word, you get NNMS. That's the parsing. So in this case, that is a noun. It is nominative, masculine, singular. If you just hover over that with the cursor, it will come up and it will say that. If you click on the strong number, which is 3056E in this case, then you will see a breakdown of those things like the lectionary, dictionary and concordance for that as well. So as a quick example, I've clicked on the word Zoe here, meaning life, and it comes up. You're clicking on the strong number here, it comes up with the strong concordance, which means it's going to show you the other words, the other uses of that word in the New Testament. It will give you a word study. There's the exhaustive concordance underneath, which will show you basically all the words in the New Testament, so you can scroll down for that, and the lectionary, which is from Thayer's Lectionary, which is very good if you want to buy the book as well. It's called Thayer's Greek English Lexicon of the New Testament. But as an example, biblehub.com, go to that, click on the word, see how it's used, click on the strong number to get more information about it. And as I say, it also brings up the phonetic pronunciation, so if you're new to learning the alphabet, that will help you in how to say things. So I've covered this in more detail in my previous video, but just to go over which translation of the Bible you might use, they're good in different ways. The main thing we want to think about here is form equivalence, or word equivalence it's sometimes called, versus dynamic equivalence. So form equivalence, sometimes called word equivalence, is about literal translation of each word. So that's going to be quite handy if you are studying Greek, because you need to know what each word on its own means. Dynamic equivalence is about conveying the overall meaning of a sentence in a way that conveys the same meaning in modern English. So you might use slightly different word order or a slightly different phraseology to convey that meaning, and that is the difficult work of translators. It's often said that translation is art and not a science. They often have to make difficult judgment calls about how to translate it correctly. It's interesting to look around different Bibles and see how they've tackled that. But on screen I've put those versions which I think you will find are best to study Koine Greek from. These give good form equivalence. Personally, I'm usually using at the moment the English Standard Version, one of the newest translations, which uses texts that have been discovered in more recent history, the widest use from the original, the earliest sources with the best provenance. The NASB is also a very good translation, and Young's literal translation is, as it says, a literal translation. And so ones on screen here I think are all pretty good for studying Greek. And at the bottom, of course, I put interlinear because you may want to think about actually purchasing an interlinear Bible. It's handy to have it on screen, it's handy to have it on an app, but I actually find it's quite good to have the book, and I do carry my book with me everywhere, and it's nice to just have a book in my hands. I do have it on Kindle as well. There are other e-readers available, but I use a Kindle, and I have it on the Kindle, and I have it on apps, and I use it on websites. But it's nice also just to have a physical book in my hand that I can open up and read from at times as well. It is also interesting to compare literal translations with dynamic equivalent Bibles. So you might look at New Living or New Light Bibles and other translations. I quite like the New Jerusalem Bible. There's today's New International Version has more modern language than a New International Version. There's various translations out there, and by looking around the different translations you can see how they've gone about translating the sentence as a whole, and that can be useful when you're studying Koine Greek. Another one to mention just before I finish is I use crosswalk.com, which redirects you to Bible study tools, and that's quite helpful website as well. It does have an annoying amount of pop-ups and adverts, I must admit, but here you can see on the screen it gives you each verse in the Greek on its own, which is handy if you just want to copy and paste. But also when you're practicing, if you're using an interlinear and it just gives you the answer, then you're not really practicing. So if you want to look at the text before you find out what it's translated to, you want to see it on its own. And as you get better at doing translation and get better at learning your Koine Greek, I encourage you to have a look at it just on its own before and try and work it out for yourself, because that's an important part of learning before you then go and look at your interlinear. If you're going to practice like that, you might want to write it out. You might want to copy and paste it and then print it and write underneath the translation. Then you can go to the interlinear and basically use it like an answer book and check if you've translated it correctly. You might further want to go on and then look at a translation that gives you more dynamic equivalence to see if you've got the overall sentence right. So you've got two jobs there. Remember, it's not just about translating each word. First thing you want to do is translate each word, yes, but then you've got to get it into a sensible word order that works in English and a cohesive sentence. So you might use different Bible translations on top of your interlinear Bible to give you a whole sentence. But as I say, if you just want to start, once you get into it a bit more, with only the text, it's handy to do that rather than having it always alongside the English in an interlinear Bible. Also, you can get the Greek New Testament in Koine Greek as a free download from Bible Hub. Just go to biblehub.org, and on the homepage you'll see in the middle there, free downloads. Click on that. You do need to subscribe to get through to this bit, but it doesn't cost anything, so you just put in your email address and then click on the option to go to the downloads. You'll get a list that looks like this, and on it there is the Koine Greek Bible New Testament, which you can get in PDF form or a Word document. There's some other forms on there, and you can either have a Greek Bible on its own, which is quite handy when you're learning, just to be able to see it's on its own, not always have the translation alongside it, but you can also get the interlinear as well from there. So that's just a few examples of some things that you will use, and as I go along I'm going to be recommending a few more things like that. If you want to look around the channel and check out a few things more, you'll see what I've done is I've used a blue theme for the background of the slides for explainer videos. I've used a green theme for practice videos. So once you've learnt something, you can go around to the green options and look at the Practice Plus playlist, and you'll get some practices to help you to learn those things. I'm going to continue to upload vocab in a purple background, and that will be a separate playlist, so you can check that out. If you'd like to receive updates, then click on the subscribe button. It's free. It will just give you an update when new videos come up. Also, please click like if you like the videos. That will help it return a higher result when people search for Greek New Testament and learning Koine Greek in the YouTube search option. Thanks everyone for coming and visiting the channel. As ever, if you've got any questions, then please do put them in the comments box or email me and let me know, and I'll try and get back to you. But otherwise, thanks for visiting, and goodbye and God bless.